So he can pull that off. And he definitely is a Van Halen fan. I think he actually prefers the Sammy era as much as or more than the Dave era.
Oh, okay.
My other two kids know of Van Halen, but they're not into it as much as my oldest because that's just old man dad music.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what my kids do. They love to break chops about old man rock. They call it old man rock. So they go,
But when Van Halen plays on the radio, they can identify it.
Oh yeah,
and they know Dave versus Sammy.
Oh sure.
So my work as a parent is complete.
Okay. Well, my kids definitely know the two. I am literally always wearing like a Van Halen shirt. I have so many of them. So I'm literally always wearing like some sort of Van Halen paraphernalia. And I have Van Halen jacket and a Van Halen shirts and hats and Van Halen everything is ridiculous. And they're constantly breaking dad's balls about that. Or they'll be with their friends and be like, hey, Paps, which they call me. That's their nickname for me is Paps. That's how they refer to me lovingly. And
worst things you could be called.
Yeah, worst things. I'll take it. So, you got to go with the flow. I was recently at a dinner for one of my sons who he's graduating from college, and we had like a little dinner for him, and he had his friends there, and my two wise-ass sons, so they turn over and they go, hey, Paps, come over here. And they had friends of theirs there who were in a band, and they go, why don't you tell them about your Van Halen podcast? And so the guys that were there were actually interested because they actually liked Van Halen, and some of them had signed up to be our subscribers to our podcast. So they're listening, actually. And actually, I should say, right on the podcast, one of them actually signed up and wanted a shout-out on the podcast. So if you can believe that or not. I thought he was kidding. I thought he was like humoring me. I thought he was saying like, oh yeah, let me, but he really actually liked the podcast and signed up for it. His name is Jordan McAfee, and Jordan is the lead singer of the band Ackerman, and check them out. It's Ackerman. You can check them out on Spotify. They are an excellent band. I saw them live. They tour with my son's band, and they're definitely worth checking out. And a shout out to Jordan. He's the man who makes the best pesto around. Not only is he known for being an Ackerman, but he's also known for his pesto. So
you're going to plug your friend's son's band, but you're not even going to plug your own son's band?
Well, I could do that too. I don't know if he wants me to, but...
all right.
My
put
son,
you on the spot.
No. I'll plug it.
I'll
plug it. My son's band is Ritual Talk, which is Ritual, Ritual, Talk, Talk, and that's their band, and they have an album out called Plans. The album is phenomenal. I really enjoy it. It's not Van Halen style, so it's not hard rock. It's sort of a psychedelic folk rock, but it's got rock elements in it and Tommy drums in it. So yeah, I love Ritual Talk. In fact, I've seen Ritual Talk in concert more than any other band ever.
Surprise!
And yeah, I go see them all the time. In fact, I'm going to see them play next week, and they're going on a 6-week tour across the country, starting May 23rd and going all the way through June 28th. So they will be touring across the country in a van, if you can believe that.
Down by the river.
Down by the river, that's right. And that wraps up our mailbag segment. And we are on to our discussion of Sammy Hagar and the Circle's new album, Space Between, followed by our interview with Andy Aledort from Guitar World magazine, who was there working on the Eddie Van Halen cover with Billy Corgan from the mid-90s, promoting the Balance album, where Andy spent time at 5150, and he tells us all about it. That's all coming up next. Take a listen.
And then it went from bad to worse.
Yeah, we toured for a year, and they still owed $1 million or something like that.
We owed $1 million. We went platinum. We toured for a year. We came back, and Warner Brothers, can I mention that? Warner Brothers told us that we owed them $2 million.
And on top of that, we owed him another record.
Yeah.
And it was the end of the year. We had three weeks to deliver another record.
So I went to Ted, and I said, Ted, let me get something straight here. We sold 1 million records, we toured for a year, and we owe you guys $2 million. So if we had done 10 records and sold 10 million records, we would have owed you $20 million? Right?
And he kind of looks at me and goes, why are we doing this? And on top of that, it was a two record a year deal.
That was like Beatle time, 1960s level stuff.
So we had 3 weeks to record another record, and boom, we went straight out on tour again.
Did we do it within 3 weeks?
Yeah. Yep.
When did we have the second batch of material done? I remember
it was written on the road, man.
I remember we did like a 40-song demo that made it onto the internet in bits and pieces at this point. But did we write material on the road?
Yeah. Well, I was did.
And did we learn it in the studio, or did we actually practice it up before we went into
Put it this way, Van Halen.
I think we may have practiced it for about a week at your house.
Yeah. But I remember, it's like, the first record took about a week to 7 days to do. The second record took about 3 weeks to do. Because that's all we had. We had to deliver that record before the year end. But
why did records used to take so little time back then? And now, there has never been a single wasted moment. For example, it took us about 9 months, and against a whole lot of political adversity and a lot of nonsense, admittedly, to make this record here. Mm-hmm. But we didn't waste a single second going into the studio. We didn't waste a single second during the mix. We didn't waste any time on our own.
If you need a dose of VH, get a taste of the closest thing. Romeo Delight, the ultimate Van Halen tribute band, playing all the hits from the David Lee Roth era, first classic 6 albums plus deep cuts, some of which have never been played live before by the band. They even throw in popular tracks from the Sammy Hagar era and solo hits. The most viewed Van Halen tribute band on YouTube, Romeo Delight, doing customized recreations of staging, instruments, and costumes from the classic Van Halen era. They even perform entire Van Halen albums in sequence. Romeo Delight plays theaters, casinos, summer indoor and outdoor festivals, and special events. They're also available for private parties. To contact them, call Bud Blanche at 215-704-5144. That's 215-704-5144. Or via email at sonicparade1@yahoo.com. Romeo Delight, the ultimate Van Halen tribute band.
If you would like to send us a letter asking a question or making a statement or whatever you'd like to say, you can send it to ddunchainedpodcast@gmail.com.
This is Bradford Thomason, co-director and producer of Lost Weekend. You're listening to Dave and Dave Unchained.
Check out the new podcast, The Rock Quarry, your place to hear in-depth interviews with some of rock's most colorful characters, with your host, entertainment journalist David J. Criblay. The Rock Quarry is available for free on Spreaker and iTunes. You can check us out on Facebook at The Rock Quarry Podcast, on Twitter at Rock Quarry Pod, on Instagram at The Rock Quarry Podcast, or email us at therockquarrypodcast@gmail.com.
We didn't purposely make the second record different, but we didn't purposely try to copy the first one either.
Whoa, I'm a one-trick pony.
What a trick.
What a trick. It's a very diverse trick, but it's one. So no matter what I try.
Well, and to a certain extent, everything Van Halen does sounds like Van Halen.
Well, folks, we are finally here. We have reached the mountaintop. The space between, or actually it's just called Space Between, has arrived. The long-awaited concept album from Sammy Hagar and The Circle is finally here. And much like Dave's cock, it's short but packs a punch.
Thank you, I think.
It was a dig with a little bonus at the end there. There you go. So the album really incorporates all shades of Hagar's career, in the sense that it blends pop with rock and some acoustic-flavored country-tinged tunes. The good news is it's not a heavy concept record. It's not bogged down by a lot of plot and characters. It's conceptual in theory, in that it has 10 songs about various shades of financial situations. Money is the theme, and perhaps Sammy is focused on that because he's clearly the richest member of Van Halen. In fact, I would go on a limb and say he's probably worth more than every other member combined.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you.
Including Gary Cherone.
Right, right.
Now, the Red Rocker is rolling in it, that's for sure. And here he discusses his various takes on financial situations which impacts people. Now, he said in a recent interview with Billboard, he said, the album is really about money, greed, enlightenment, and truth. Money is not the problem. Money is beautiful. You can heal the sick. You can feed the poor. You can stop a war with money. It's greed that's the problem. So you shouldn't hate somebody just because they're rich, especially if they didn't fuck anybody out of money, and if they do something good with it. Guys like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, you can't be mad at them for being so rich. These guys build hospitals, build schools for children and other countries. Those are good guys. And that's what you can do with money. So it makes you wonder if this album is some sort of therapeutic way for Sammy to feel not guilty for his financial windfall and luxurious lifestyle. But he says here, the album's message is to encourage the listeners to be charitable. You know, $10 at a food bank makes something like 10 meals or feeds 10 people. Things you can do to help your fellow man and not just sit around and bitch about everything. I really hope that it changes some people, maybe gives them some hope. And I think he was winking at a lot of the political griping that is going on, although Sammy does make a point to say he is not a political guy and will not choose sides and make his politics known in the masses there. To Sam, I say that is fine and that is a good message. It's also easy to say when you're loaded, especially when the government is not. The government is taking all the money from guys like Dave and I, or paying all these taxes. Although I'm sure Sam pays exorbitant taxes as well. I will say this about the record: Sammy is right. It works best as a solid album and played in its entirety. He doesn't say that for ego purposes. He's absolutely right. It's a fun ride, but for a concept record, it's lyrically light. Several songs are more like jams, and if you view them as pieces of a whole pie, then it really works. Sammy sounds amazing. The production is tight and clean. The recording of it is fantastic. Hagar's in great voice. He's clear as a bell. Some songs, they kind of like start and sound like they're ready to take off, but they never like fully finish. But then you kind of realize it's like Sammy says, a chapter in a book. It's just a piece of the whole puzzle. So you kind of got to go with it a little bit. The weird thing is the whole thing is pretty damn enjoyable. And it is the only music that we're getting from anybody here. There's nothing from Van Halen. There's nothing from Dave, although he has that album in the can with John 5. There's nothing from Wolf, although Wolf has his solo album in the can. And there's nothing from Gary. And I happen to know he has a solo album in the can that he hasn't released for years, and he's still working on another new album with Extreme for the past 11 years. So what can I say? Hagar is hitting it hard. He's releasing new music. He's got a hot new band. He's touring. He's playing Van Halen songs. He's playing Montrose songs. He's playing Zeppelin songs. And he's grabbing the spotlight and proving he's making the most out of being Sammy Hagar, which has always been something that he was smart enough to capitalize on. The truth is, this album goes down easy. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but it's well worth listening to and digesting. So, Dave, what were your overall impressions initially?
Well, my overall impressions are, it's not really a concept album per se.
Yeah, no.
It's not like The Who's Tommy.
No.
To me, it's more like you had alluded to earlier. It's 10 songs with a common theme.
Right.
But that's really about as far as it goes in terms of concept.
Right.
It's brief. It's only about 34 minutes.
Yeah, it's short.
But that's good for Sam because sometimes if he goes longer than that, you start getting the lesser good of Sam.
Right,
It starts getting watered down and stuff like that.
Right, that's true.
I do agree that it does sound phenomenal.
Right.
Produced very well.
Oh, yeah.
The instruments are fine. The vocals are fine.
Yeah,
Sam's voice, it's a little sandy sometimes because he is 71 years old.
Yeah,
but
he's not going to sound like 5150, that's for sure.
No. But it works well for him. it doesn't detract at all from the album.
Right.
It's kind of like the Steve Perry album from last year.
Right.
Only the difference is we hadn't heard Steve sing in like 20, 30 years.
Right.
So does he sound a little older?